We have the lunar eclipse in Cancer, the sign of selfless love and devotion. It's in the Nakshatra of Aslesha, which means the entwiner. It's where we get tangled up in either desire or pure love. Very transformative time, so check it out. Okay, so making this video about the eclipse that's happening, the lunar eclipse that's happening on January 31st. This is going to be in the sign of Cancer, about 17 degrees Cancer in the Nakshatra of Aslesha. Now, Aslesha literally means the entwiner, and to wrap and entwine, at even like entangle or ensnare us in something. Now, this happens in the sign of sidereal Cancer. Of course, in Vedic astrology, we use the sidereal zodiac, which aligns with the nakshatras, and so we especially see that kind of integrity of zodiacs with this nakshatra and this section of the zodiac where water signs become fire signs. Of course, if you're not using that zodiac, and I've seen some who do forecasts about the eclipse and they don't mention the Rashi when they're not using the sign, because then you would have Aslesha, which is this kind of emotional entanglement, but it would be in the sign of Leo, which really starts to strain credulity. Of course, Aslesha is in the sign of Cancer, and again, it has to do with entwining and embracing and getting tangled up in things. The symbol is the serpent, the way a serpent coils around something, and it can have a sort of poisonous quality to it. And that poisonous quality really has to do with the sort of toxic emotions that can undermine us. And in particular, again, this is the sign of Cancer. And because Cancer is, again, it's a sattvic sign. The gunas of the signs are very important. And the guna of Cancer is sattvic, it's ruled by the moon. And it shows that the sign of Cancer is the sign of that pure, selfless love, which is the sattvic kind of love. It's no better than the romantic kind of love, which has to do with exchange and equality and mutual, yielding and compromise. The love of Cancer is like the love of a mother, which has no need for reciprocation. Right? The mother can feed the baby, and the baby can spit the food back in the mother's face, and the mother will still go, "Oh, isn't that cute?" Maybe not, but you get the picture. If you feed your boyfriend or your partner and you spit the food in your face, it might be a little different, right? This is because of the guna. It's the selfless sattvic quality of Cancer. And this shows with this nakshatra of Aslesha that when we stay with selfless love and we get entangled and entwined, and when we embrace that selfless love, like the mother's love for a child, it takes us straight to the heart, not just of our own heart, but the heart of existence. So this is why those water signs aren't really related to what we call love, which is that romantic love. Usually what we call love is some kind of romantic love that has attachment and desire and passion and all of this whole thing. In a sort of metaphysical sense, that's not really what you would call love. That's kama, or desire, or passion, and it's rajasic. It's why Venus rules that kind of love, and Venus is a rajasic planet. The pure love of the moon, which is the ruler of Cancer, has more to do with devotion. Like the mother is devoted to the child. That's why the mother doesn't need any reciprocation. Now, we often get these kinds of love confused. If we have this kind of selfless devotion to our partners, we could say, well, what's wrong with that? Well, it can be dangerous because we have to hold other adults accountable. This is why we feel taken advantage of. For instance, the example, if you let the partner spit the food back in your face, metaphorically, because you're so devoted to them, after a while it's going to get on your nerves, right? But parents will continue to love their children no matter what they do, right? So this is a key principle in this eclipse. Of course, the sign of Cancer, which is that pure love and devotion, which has to do with the mother's love, and the section of Cancer called Aslesha, which is at the end. Now, again, it shows that when we get tangled up and entwined and wrapped up in impure forms of love, it can show that tragic loss. Because again, you want to understand that that romantic kind of desire, love, and that romantic kind of, I shouldn't even say romantic, but that kind of desire interaction that we have with others is Rajasic. And again, that's more related to Venus and even the sign of Libra, even Mercury, where we're having to exchange and sort of harmonize and balance things, not just romantic partners, but business partners, all those kinds of relationships. That's not what Cancer is about. Cancer is about pure love. It's emotional, which is, we're trying to elevate the emotions toward devotion. Devotion is the highest quality of Cancer. And this Nakshatra of Aslesha shows that unless we are devoted, and in fact, until we become devoted to something high, our emotions are going to unsettle us and destabilize us, because the heart is then being filtered through the emotions and through our desires, rather than connected to the pure heart. So you want to understand that that pure love in your heart, that devotion mixed with desire, creates emotion. There's nothing wrong with desire, right? Especially, it depends on what we have the desire for. And that sort of, potential sort of pathology around emotions taking us out of ourselves is seen in the Aslesha Nakshatra. It's related to all kinds of emotional stresses, especially, again, being attached to things that are not pure, to impure forms of love, like relationships. And it's only impure. It doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it's not pure. Like the mother's love is pure. It's mixed with our own desire as well. And that shows what we're working out in those romantic relationships, or our business partnerships, or our relationship with our friends and family, with adults. We're working out a different soul lesson. Not one that's related to devotion, but it's more of one that's related to equality. So when we confuse those things, it can be a real crisis for the soul. So these could be big themes right now, especially as we get closer to the eclipse on January 31st. And it's, the sun is also opposite that sign of Cancer in Capricorn, which is holding down the other end. And again, the lunar eclipse is trying to harmonize the other side of the lunar nodal axis. And right now it's actually Sun Ketu, wherever the sun is, shows a real anchoring point of the eclipse. We're trying to stay in integrity with our boundaries and with our practical duties and commitments, which is shown by Sun Ketu and also Venus Mercury in Capricorn. So there's all these planets in Capricorn. So again, the lunar eclipse is opposite that. It's trying to pull us out, and it opens up this duality. And it's the duality of, okay, you can have your boundaries and your structure and your duties and your commitments and those things around you, but you need to be flowing through the heart. And the heart needs to be connected with the emotions, with the devotion, with something pure. And when it's connected with something pure, it won't disturb your boundaries. And in fact, this is the harmonizing point between the sun in Capricorn and the moon in Cancer, is in fact not until we make peace with our own, you would even say, mortality, and with the truth as we know it, which is Capricorn, those rational, those sort of cold, rational realities that you need to face, then we can't have a realistic emotional or devotional experience, because we're always going to be clinging to other people. Maybe this love will save me. This is the problem of Cancer. Maybe this attachment, this person, this child, this teacher, this thing, maybe this will save me. Now the teacher and the child have much more potential because at least they start from a pure place. But if we don't have good structure and boundaries and we're not practical and realistic, which is the Capricorn opposition point of Cancer, then we're just going to project all of our emotional fantasies onto the others and create a lot of drama. So this is the real dialectic going on, the real dialogue happening with this lunar eclipse in Cancer in the Nakshatra of Aslesha. Now, a few other things that make it interesting, just looking at the other planets again, as I said, we have Sun, Mercury, Venus, and Ketu, the South Node, all in Capricorn. So there's a lot of Capricorn energy, which means a lot of that serious focus, commitment sort of thing. And it's happening within this, what's called a Kalasarpa Yoga for the most part, which means all the planets are in between Rahu and Ketu when we have the eclipse. The moon is a few degrees outside of it. Actually, so is Venus, a couple degrees, but they're in the same sign and very close to the node. So for all intents and purposes, it's a very kind of hypnotic sort of time that we're going through right now, because all the planets are in between the nodal axis. And they're in between, starting with, it's actually more the Ketu Rahu. So we feel like we're sort of closing and completing a certain cycle of karma that's related to our duties and our commitments and what we're focused on and what we're willing to work hard for and hang in there with. It feels like we're kind of finishing a new, we're like finishing a section of that and opening a new paradigm around our duties, commitments, and those things that we're willing to sacrifice and work hard for. So we also still have Jupiter in Libra, where it's been for the last several months. We still see a lot of the social activism going on. Here in the US, we've had some of these women's marches. In India, where I've been for the last month or so, there's been a lot of marches in India that have to do with women also reclaiming their power. There was also some big demonstrations related to the caste system and the untouchables in I believe it was Mumbai, it was in Delhi. So you're seeing a lot of social uprising also, and these things I stated these months ago when Jupiter went into Libra, that we would see a lot of social uprising, and that's right when we started to see all of the whole Me Too movement. So we're still seeing quite a bit of that as a backdrop. We also see Mars has gone into Scorpio for last week or so. So that's also shown a lot of potential for emotional discipline, but also emotional battles, the potential to get into emotional struggles with others. Be careful of emotional blow-ups and, sort of even, the kind of paranoid, conflated emotional, frustration that blows up into something. But other than that, it's a lot of emotional discipline and a lot of emotional courage and realism and reality that we can be, bringing into our spiritual practices especially, but even besides that, just a lot of, again, just emotional courage and a willingness to look at yourself and hopefully get stronger in your heart. And for those who have yogic practices and all of that or whatever, it's a good time to really be more introspective and, not project so many emotional stresses onto others, but actually be able to deal with the frustrations and the difficulties yourself and own them, which is what we're supposed to do with Mars. And we still have Saturn also in Sagittarius, which is bringing that sort of commitment to what inspires us and what we're motivated toward rather than what we're trying to avoid or what we might fear. So now I'm going to do this for the members of my astrology training lab who get to see how this eclipse will affect them, specifically based on their sidereal rising sign. Very important, because these are really the cycles in our life. The real cycles in our life revolve around the sun-moon cycles each month, 12 of them each year, and it really shows these benchmarks throughout the year. Every couple weeks we're dealing with a new moon and a full moon, and we're vacillating between these principles. So I'll do that now for my members. If you want to join, you can click below this video. You'll see there's a link, only 50 cents. You can try it for 2 weeks and see if you like the daily forecast and all the other stuff that you can get. Once you click at the page, you'll see.